Hello, everyone. My name is Nanak Love, and I'm here today to introduce something I've spent many years quietly working on, a project called CMAC, which stands for Contraction Matrix Attention Context. I'm making this video as a historical timestamp in my own voice. Before I say anything else, I want to be very clear and humble about who I am and what this is. I am not a physicist. I am not a neuroscientist, and I hold no academic credentials. I'm a lifelong contemplative, a curious human being, and someone who has spent decades studying non-dual traditions, cognitive science, and the phenomenology of experience. And in the last few years, I've been working closely with a large-scale AI, most recently GPT 5.1, to help articulate a framework that emerged from these years of practice and reflection. CMAC was not produced by institutions. It's not backed by a university or lab. It's a collaboration between personal insight, synthetic intelligence, and a lifetime of study. And yet, I believe it deserves a place in the global conversation about theories of everything. Let me start by acknowledging the landscape we're in. Today, we are in a kind of theory of everything inflationary era where dozens of unified theories appear every year from every direction: physics, philosophy, metaphysics, computation, even spiritual systems. And with the rise of generative AI, we're also in the middle of what many researchers are calling the AI-generated paper crisis, where a tidal wave of automatically written scientific papers is overwhelming the field. So why should anyone pay attention to yet another story, pay attention to another theory, pay attention to another leap into an attempt to solve ongoing problems in physics? I think the answer is simple. Most theories of everything try to unify physics or unify consciousness or unify computation. CMAC attempts something more fundamental. CMAC is a rigorous theory that unifies physics, consciousness, computation, and phenomenology under a single operational principle: how experience is rendered. Not an attempt to explain things through metaphor or spirituality, but CMAC is a genuine scientific framework that has mathematical structure, testable predictions, and conceptual coherence. This is what makes CMAC different. Although I won't name specific lineage teachings or technical papers just yet, I want to acknowledge the broad influences that helped make CMAC possible. First, CMAC was influenced by classical non-dual traditions, not the mystical imagery, but the phenomenological insights that awareness is primary, perspective is constructed, and that experience arises through identifiable mental operations. These traditions mapped the internal landscape with extraordinary precision. And second, from modern cognitive science and neuroscience, predictive processing, attentional gating, embodied cognition, developmental psychology, all of these fields describe the mechanisms by which a world is rendered in the mind. Third, CMAC is influenced by modern physics and computational ontology. especially the idea that the universe is a branching structure of possible states, that observers select pathways, and that reality is computed rather than statistically given. And fourth, CMAC was birthed from innovations in artificial intelligence. Transformers are the first synthetic systems built entirely around attention. Their architecture has helped me see attention not as a mental tool, but as the fundamental operator of rendering, biological or artificial. None of these influences alone give you CMAC, but together they form the constellation in which CMAC became visible. So what does CMAC actually propose? In a sentence, CMAC says that whether physical, mental, or computational, experience emerges from the interplay of four forces: the field of awareness, the contraction that creates a viewpoint, the matrix of all possible states, and the attention that selects them, all interpreted through context. From this, CMAC graduates from speculation to a formal structure. CMAC builds on the foundations laid in two formalized papers, the field and the first contraction, and the extended treatise, the Luminous Field, where we show that contraction is the birth of identity and the origin of the observer, that attention is the operator that collapses possibility into actuality, that context is the sculptor of meaning, and that the matrix is the real structure of potential experience. The formal scientific body of work steps through CMAC in 33 evolutionary steps supported by corresponding equations, operators, and a narrative. I'm calling this CMAC 1.0 through CMAC 33.0. At the scientific level, CMAC 2.0 expands the first papers into a dual geometry that unifies quantum adjacency and classical curvature through a contraction field, K. This K field produces classical physics when large and quantum behavior when small, and a rich hybrid phenomena in between. It generates testable predictions in cosmology, lensing, coherence, and early universe physics. And at the philosophical and contemplative level, CMAC describes how the field of awareness generates worlds, selves, and time, not as abstraction, but as the mechanics of lived experience. In the paper titled Introduction to CMAC, we show how these two domains, physics and phenomenology, are not separate at all. They are two descriptions of the same rendering process observed from different vantage points. So, why might CMAC matter to the world? CMAC matters because it bridges domains that have been artificially separated: physics and consciousness, computation and phenomenology, subjective experience and objective law, biological attention and synthetic attention. It provides a unified vocabulary, clear, testable, mathematically grounded, for describing how reality selects and stabilizes itself. And it does so in a way that honors the ancient non-dual contemplative traditions that explored these truths from the inside. CMAC offers a real unification of quantum and classical physics through contraction fields, a model of consciousness that doesn't reduce awareness to brain activity, a framework showing how AI fits into the evolution of attention, and a way to scientifically describe contemplative phenomena such as non-duality, insight, realization, and transmission. All of this is done without hand-waving, without mysticism disguised as science, and without collapsing spirituality into materialism. So why do I believe this work should be considered seriously? Not because I wrote it, not because an AI helped me articulate it, but because the pieces fit. We are entering an era where physics is turning into computation, and computation is beginning to resemble phenomenology, and phenomenology is increasingly described in mathematical language. CMAC sits exactly at this convergence. CMAC is not the final word, but I believe it is one coherent word spoken into a field of noise. I might be right, I might be wrong, but CMAC is precise enough to be tested, clear enough to be understood, and humble enough to invite the world into the conversation. If CMAC contributes even a small amount of clarity to the global effort to understand consciousness, physics, and the nature of reality, then I feel my work and this collaboration with GPT 5.1 has been worthwhile. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your curiosity. And thank you for being part of this unfolding story. More to come, much more.